Now, you may have heard the news of the DSA victories sweeping New York City. 2 DSA members, because of the Pikerdom, are now slated to be elected into the Congress. Trump is setting his sight on this. Trump literally said the communists have made their move. We're looking at a showdown, a national level showdown, that could be a very important and critical part of the civil war that I've always been talking about happening. If the midterms, which are going to be a sight of trouble, like I said they would be, a good pretext for the disruption of the midterms could literally be anti-communism. It could literally be, we can't let these communists win. So there's a lot of chaos and unpredictability just on terms of the Civil War timeline, just because of these DSA victories. But there's a lot of people who are blackpilling, and there's a lot of people who look at the DSA victories and they're saying, Haas, what's going on with the ACP? Why are we not as relevant? Why do they have all the energy? Why do they have all the momentum? Everyone's talking about DSA. DSA reportedly gained 2,000 members in one night, in one day. 24 hours, they gained 2,000 members. Hassan Piker looked at the camera. I think 100,000 people must have been watching, and he said, join DSA. Overnight, 2,000 people flooded that organization. This is not the same DSA, even the same way it was 2 years ago. This is a DSA that has been hijacked by the cybernetic circuits and process that is the Pikerdom, Hassan Piker. And what infrared was for the ACP, Piker is mobilizing and turning the DSA into. And today, because I'm such a dummy and I'm such a bad content creator, I spent hours, it took like 3-4 hours, writing up a just 5,000 word article, giving an objective Marxist analysis of what's going on with this DSA hype. Because it's out of this fucking world. The DSA hype is out of this world. People are joining them en masse. All the vision for the future of politics in opposition to Trump right now and guiding the Democratic Party is all going to the DSA. Let's not fucking kid ourselves or be delusional about it. DSA has acquired a level of political relevancy that it has never had in its entire history. And there are those of us who are so fucking out of touch. And I want you guys to fucking wake the fuck up. This shit that I'm telling you, it's never popular. You never like to fucking hear it. But the infrared vision is not something you just fucking hear because it conforms to your lazy sensibilities. Yes, we know the DSA are Democrat shills, but that's not explaining what the fuck is going on at all. It has no explanatory value. And you're not helping the American Communist Party by not understanding the critical trajectories and avenues that are going to secure our victory in the long term. Because make no fucking mistake, in the long term, the organization and the movement, which stands to gain the most from what's rocking the nation right now with this DSA shit going on in New York, is the American Communist Party, and I'll even add the infrared movement. That's what you got to sit, stay tuned, understand, so you have the strategic depth, so you have the necessary understanding to how to proceed forward. Easy, what's up? I spent 3 to 4 hours of my day just writing this fucking article. I don't have a team, so there's no way I can just convert it into something for Instagram, so I did that. And then I went to the gym, and hopefully ChatGPT gave me something nice. I also wanted to convert it into a video, into a TikTok, but what can I fucking do as one person, right? You understand why infrared expansion needs to fucking happen. Because I'm a content creation machine, and I can do so fucking much to advance the message, but there's only so much I could do to spread the fucking message, right? So because I'm alone doing this, my division of labor is divided in a really fucked up, disgusting, inefficient fucking way that kneecaps me and prevents me to fucking grow in terms of reach. Because the division of labor of formulating the vision, formulating the strategic vision and understanding, and the theory, plus making that shit fucking go viral. I've always been a fucking juggernaut philosopher king, warrior philosopher king, who fucking does that, walks and chews bubblegum at the same fucking time. Write a bunch of fucking theory, formulate an esoteric strategic vision that's very deep, that's very profound, the theory, as a theoretician, and turn the fucking camera on and present it to you in a fucking way where at least 5% of you can fucking digest it, take it home, and turn it into something you could spread discursively in the community that makes this a mass fucking movement, right? But the days of me being a lone juggernaut, able to fucking do all this shit by myself, are coming to an end because this movement and this community has to expand beyond 300 gorillas. It now needs to become 3,000 gorillas. Do you understand? So there needs to be a team of people, 10 people, that are devoted to the expansion of infrared, or else we will not simply stagnate as we have been. We're going to fucking go under. You understand? Now, I'm not going to repeat the same speech I told you last time. I told you the unsustainability of the certain position. You guys are as generous as ever. You're extremely generous when it comes to the stream donations. But the problem is not your lack of generosity. The problem is that I need to be streaming on YouTube, I need to be streaming on Twitch, and I need to be running the American Communist Party. I can't afford to do that unless there's a different way in which you guys support me. Through a different way, right? I floated a few ideas and a few options. But if I can get that support that's consistent, I will turn all the revenues generated into infrared into a type of capital that expands this machine and expands infrared into the real juggernaut that it needs to be to grow, right? I'm not going to deliver that same speech that I did before. I'm going to deliver a different speech. I'm going to talk about how the headwinds are in our favor, and if we don't fucking wake the fuck up right now, if we don't capitalize this, and if we're not prepared to, history will not forgive us. This whole thing will pass us by, and we will get shit from it. And by the way, we did do that before. Yep. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. You want to know why ACP is not at 5,000 members? Because on election night, 2024, we did not have the multimedia momentum through infrared to create the pipeline for people to join the fucking party. We had the party, we had the hype surrounding the party, we didn't have the pipeline to the party that fucking makes sense of it. So because infrared was not big enough at that time and was being neglected, guess what fucking happened? Our enemies defined the narrative around ACP, and still do to this day, because we don't have an intermediary pipeline to the ACP. That infrared functioned as, in the years leading up to the reconstitution of the CPUSA, aka the launch of the ACP. So this is the truth. We cannot afford to fuck up again. We fucked up one time, and it cost us a lot. I'm not going to lie. It cost us a lot. If we fuck up again, it can bury us. Do you understand? Because there's a second wave of momentum that's going to be generated from the collapse, the breakdown, and the failure of the DSA, which is going to happen. While all these people are talking about the hype and momentum surrounding the DSA, we have to be the ones with the long-term understanding of, on the basis of the class forces that constitute the DSA, this trajectory is not sustainable for them, and eventually they're going to crash and burn because of these material premises and foundations that they currently have, which are going to make them fail to take over the Democratic Party, crash and burn, and then all of the remaining momentum that's surrounding it is going to scatter to the fucking wind. And guess who is right now poised to reap the lion's share of it? Guess. The far right. Not us, the far right. The far right is going to win from the failure of the DSA. They're going to create a new Nazi party. And why? Because we lack the capacity to absorb anything, because we are not fucking relevant enough. In the discourse, in the media, we don't get talked about enough. We don't have enough of an online subculture. We don't have enough of an online media ecosystem. Infrared has to fucking expand for us to be able to fucking absorb this. And I'm telling you, if we fuck this up, this can bury us. And we're not going to get a second chance. So we need to be all hands on deck to prepare for what's fucking coming. Now, what's going on with the DSA in New York City? It's very fucking simple. It's very fucking simple. I'm going to just simplify it for you. There's a big myth that Zoran Mamdani is a grassroots candidate. He's not. He started through the Democrat DNC political machine. Open Society Foundation, Soros. He tapped into all those pre-existing networks and institutions and infrastructure and resources. Full-time activists who are on a salary, professional networks. And that's how he got going on two legs. And there's so many people in my community who point that out. Oh, Haas, it's a DNC psyop. You're a fucking boomer. Stop. Stop this fucking boomer retardation and delusion. You don't even see what's happening in front of you. They are not smart enough. There's a generational rift. Even George Soros and his son are retarded, institutionally retarded. Something is happening right now, okay? Something is happening now that is not a top-down conspiracy, but reflects some self-reinforcing, autonomous, rogue movement of some kind is taking off. And the more people fucking deny this, the more you're just fucking crossing your fucking arms and going, they're just all the establishment shills. It's like, we're sitting on the fucking sidelines. And you know what? I'm going to insult us to fucking light a fire under your ass to wake you the fuck up. I know the DSA is not comparable to the ACP. If anything, we're comparable to one of those caucuses. Like, you can maybe compare us to MUG. You can hold us to that standard. You can't hold us to the standard of something like the DSA. But let's say we did. In one day, DSA gained 2,000 members. Basically double the entirety of the membership we have over 2 years. So all of you smartasses crossing your fucking arms, self-assured about what's going on, your strategy's not fucking working. And it's time to get fucking smart and level the fuck up in terms of how you're responding to what's going on. Because in one fucking day, the DSA absorbed in membership double the entirety of our party, basically. Okay? Now, I know it's not a fair comparison. I know we're much more advanced and educated. Our consciousness is much more advanced. You know, we're more like a caucus or something. And the caucuses are not large. They are pretty much similar to us in size, actually, in terms of the active members of the caucuses. But I want to say this so you fucking wake the fuck up and understand that you are not responding to this in the right way by just dragging your fucking feet, crossing your fucking arms, and pointing fingers. And look, I'm not saying you're wrong for doing that. I'm telling you it's not enough. You need to stop being content doing that. It's delusional. We're not a fucking sect. We are supposed to be the preeminent leading force of a new American left, okay? We need to be fucking future-oriented and think in the long term about how all this is going to play out and how we make this play out in a way that favors the ACP, favors our movement, favors our organization. Do you understand? So let's be objective about what's happening. Now, we are resentful. I'm resentful. The ACP doesn't get jack shit support from the outside. Fucking nothing. Zoran Mamdani and the DSA have these vast resources that they can take for granted from the DNC and from the Democratic Party. I know that more than any of you do. So don't fucking respond to anything I say by repeating that back to me. I already fucking know that. It pisses me off more than it pisses you off, by the way, that these fucking hypocrites call us feds and they call us X, Y, and Z, but they get fucking funded with millions of dollars that they have access to from Soros. They were not built by a working class, proletarian mass movement. They were built from the inside of the hegemony of the bourgeoisie. And that is a fact. But it's also a fact that there's a contradiction going on inside that very same hegemony. And that contradiction is what has propelled the rise of Zoran Mamdani and what has propelled the rise of this new DSA sweep that is being led by Hassan Piker, if you can believe it. And we need to have the correct analysis. What is the slogan of our movement? Beyond the visible spectrum. When we talk about the infrared vision, what the fuck is that? Now, at the end of the day, I love the culture of the infrared movement. I love talking about the esoteric side of the infrared vision. But the infrared vision acquires the most clarity when it is rooted in an actual strategic materialist analysis of the situation we're living in right now. That is the infrared vision at its most burning hot temperature. And that's the one you need to fucking embrace right the fuck now. You want to talk about infrared vision? I'm going to give it to you right fucking now. Okay? Inside the institutions and hegemony of the bourgeoisie, which the Democratic Party and the DNC is the official established political form of, the Republican Party being a false opposition of evangelical churches and other kind of... These are institutions, yes, created by the bourgeoisie, but for the purposes of deceiving the masses. Primarily in flyover states and rural America and so on and so on. The official citadels and hegemony of the bourgeoisie, it's always been in the Democratic Party, right? Now, something is happening with what we call the professional petty bourgeoisie. I would say at least half or the majority of the current generation are aspiring or were aspiring or have become petty bourgeois professionals. I know that the definition of class has changed for a lot of these retard fake Marxists. I know that they're trying to tell us that petty bourgeois professionals are workers because they don't own the fucking company they work for, because they're employees who get a salary and don't directly own the means of production. But according to the basic Marxist definition that's always prevailed, they are stakeholders in capital. They are petty bourgeois. The professional classes have always been regarded as petty bourgeois. Brandon, what's up? That's always been the case, okay? That didn't just change recently, that this is something we invented. Lenin talked about the professional intelligentsia as petty bourgeois. Marx and Engels did the same thing. It was a truism for Marxists, okay? Some people invented a new term, the professional managerial class. I think we could just go back to the term the professional petty bourgeoisie, because it's just, that's what they are. They're petty bourgeois. Professional managerial, it's just a vague thing. That analysis was made as a criticism of the USSR originally by Barbara Eichenreich or whatever. I prefer the term professional petty bourgeoisie, right? So if you have any familiarity with the history of infrared and the breakdown, the analysis that I've given, I've delved into detail in terms of how we define classes and all this stuff. I'm not going to get back into that. We're just going to take it as a granted that there's an observable, distinct segment of the population. I'm calling them the professional petty bourgeoisie. You can call them PMC. You can call them urbanoids. You can call them glasses wearers. But they're clearly distinct from the working class, even within New York City. Even if you just want to judge them on the basis of where they live and the income bracket that they're in, their neighborhood, and so on and so on. Sorry, I'm just fucking congested as fuck. Because I haven't been able to shower, I haven't been able to prepare for anything, because I'm keeping my word about when I'm in a stream. So in any case, that specific segment can be defined. These are the employees of these elite hegemonic institutions. They're aspiring professionals. These are the people that are college educated. They go to college because they want to get a job in the university. They want to join a nice law firm, a medical institution. They want to be hired in some kind of like cultural elite, Hollywood, or I don't know, A24, I guess is a thing now. They're just basically people that want to work for corporations. They want to work for the hegemony in some kind of way. Or they have delusions about opening up their own small shop. It's all petty bourgeois in any case, okay? Now, we don't live in a proletarian culture. We live in a culture that's been deindustrialized because of NAFTA and because of decades of neoliberalism. So the current generation of young people for a long time have been brought up on the illusion that they're going to be aspiring members of the professional petty bourgeoisie, or, if they're lucky, the big bourgeoisie proper, right? Big shots. But it hasn't happened. And it continues to not happen, and they continue to be disappointed, right? These people who go to college to get college educated, they branch out into two forms of being declassed. They become lumpen, fentanyl, heroin addicts, or they become proletarians. And I would say that the majority of blue-collar people in the infrared movement, they are young people who at some point were aspiring petty bourgeois professionals, and it didn't pan out for them. And even as a consequence of watching infrared, maybe they were NEETs, and I yelled at the camera talking about the blue-collar working class being the revolutionary subject. And I think a lot of infrared fans literally became blue-collar workers because they were influenced by infrared. One's if this applies to you. One's if you became involved in the trades because you were influenced by infrared. Not all of you, but for some of you, this is actually the case. You were in this meandering position that most of these DSA types find themselves in, where they still have delusions about joining the professional petty bourgeoisie, or they have already joined it, but they're discontented by the fact that they're being gatekept from rising to the top. And so when you watch infrared and you're coming from that background, and I'm just giving you the straight truth, a lot of you are like, you know what, fuck that. I'm just going to become a tradesman, make good money, and be able to get by however I can, right? So in any case, that is our generation. A lot of people don't think about generations. Whenever we create these crude juxtapositions between, Teamster, blue-collar workers, and DSA glasses wearers, it's like, well, consider the generational gap. Our generation is not culturally disposed to proletarianization. You guys happen to be part of a movement which is at the vanguard of the proletarianization that's happening, a way of responding and articulating to the phenomena of proletarianization, right? And that is an actual path. And beyond that path, it's lumpenization, it's drugs, it's degeneracy, and so on and so on. So some of you straight up have become blue-collar workers coming from the same generation that DSA people do, because the alternative for you was lumpenization, and you rejected that. Now, what if I told you that is primarily the advantage we have in terms of being early? Which means to say, before I get into that, I'm not even going to get into that right now. The only thing you need to properly understand, right, is that the DSA is comprised of professional petty bourgeois. That's the class they represent, whether they're being declassed, whether they've already reached it and they're discontented. That's who they represent as a class and as a class tendency. And this is objectively true because I showed with proof in my article that in the Zohran Mamdani primary with Cuomo, the Democratic primary, not the mayoral election, but the primary that happened last year, you may not know this, but Zohran was actually less popular than the incumbent among the New York City working class. Zohran, the New York City working class mainly went for the incumbent or they went for Curtis Silva, right? And the people that really decisively tipped the scale for Zohran Mamdani, those were the college graduates. Those were the aspiring professional petty bourgeoisie or the existing professional petty bourgeoisie or transplants or gentrifiers. So that's actually something we can observe. That's something we can observe very directly and very clearly. He did not win power on the backs of the working class. Now, after he had won the Democratic primary, he got a broad majority of New York City. And we say, well, the majority of New York City are working class, right? But here's the problem. The people who showed out to vote, majority of them were college educated or had a bachelor's or more. But the majority of people who live in New York City, 60%, have no college education, which means voter turnout was skewed in favor of the professional petty bourgeoisie. And off the backs and momentum of the professional petty bourgeoisie, Zoran's rise can be attributed to. And the DSA is the fighting organization of the professional petty bourgeoisie. It just so happens to be that the majority of the professional petty bourgeoisie, not the majority, they are more than average, extremely concentrated in New York City. I would say at least 30%, maybe 40%, 40% of New York City you could classify as professional petty bourgeoisie. And there's a huge concentration of that class in cities like New York City. And that was the momentum off of which Zoran decisively won. Now, does that mean the incumbent Democratic establishment is the working class one? No. I want everyone to fucking pay attention and listen to me. You want to talk about infrared vision? Listen to the fucking vision. By default, the bourgeoisie has a monopoly on media, on Tammany Hall bullshit, electoral politics, institutions of voter turnout, meeting community leaders, burrowing themselves in these communities with the unions. I mean, every major institution of civil society is downstream from the money that flows from the bourgeoisie. So by default, the majority of the proletariat who do vote and participate in elections do so because they're being lulled by the bourgeois hegemony. They're within, their consciousness is lulled by the bourgeois hegemony. They go outside and they vote passively, not because they're actively asserting the interests of their class, but because it's like going to a fucking sports game. It's like talking about sports. Well, that's just what's on the TV. That's just like the default thing. Like most proletarians are like that. They're either not voting at all because they're conspiracy theorists, or there's some kind of they're just kind of like, well, that's politics. That's just how it is. And they're in that sense, they're kind of very conservative, but I'm not talking in the cultural sense. I'm talking in the political sense, right? And I'm not talking about the white working class. I'm talking about the Latino and black working class, maybe even more to an extent, right? Because the white working class, I guess they lean toward MAGA a lot of the time. They'll break out even more. Latino and black working class primarily are with the Democrat center, okay? Overall, they are more to the right than the professional petty bourgeois, superficially, right? Superficially speaking. That's definitely the case. I've observed that for a decade. It has continued to be the case at the scale of the nation, too. It scales to the entire nation. I don't think there's a single segment of the working class anywhere which is receptive to the DSA. I have never seen it. The people and segments of the population receptive to the DSA are the professional petty bourgeois, or that type of leftist, progressive Hassan Piker politics. And this is a fact. This is a fact, okay? But because of the huge concentration of the professional petty bourgeoisie in New York City, they began, on the basis of the bourgeois hegemony that Zoran took for granted in the beginning, pre-primary, they began to rapidly self-organize. They began to be aware of themselves, which neighborhoods they're living in, and so on and so on. And they banded together on the basis of what? They are aggrieved, and they have profound resentments because they're in debt and they're being gate-kept out of the institutions, and they're being declassed. So they have been mobilized, and there's like a fire that has been lit up their ass in New York City specifically, that's the thing that's behind the revival of the DSA. They're getting their shit together thanks to the command of Hassan Piker, actually, because these people all watch Hassan Piker, by the way. I know people pretend that they're offline and stuff. They're not. These specific people. Look, Hassan, he gets 30,000 concurrent viewers every day, no matter what he's doing. Who do you think those 30,000 people are, or where they are? That's who watches him. That's who those people are, right? And Piker is their leader. What I am for you, Hassan Piker is for these new recruits and people being mobilized by the DSA, the cadre, the personnel. I'm not saying Piker is tipping elections in terms of turnout. I'm saying he's tipping elections because he's mobilizing a political machine of personnel and activists and people on the ground to actually go toe-to-toe and compete with legacy mainstream Democrat forms of hegemony. And this is a fact. Hassan Piker's a huge, huge kingmaker when it comes to this rise of the DSA, and it's a fact. Now, these are so you have something very interesting going on. You have a conventional, traditional, democratic machine, establishment machine, and then you have this new form of hegemony by the professional petty bourgeoisie, which is the kind of self-reinforcing DSA movement of activists. They're spreading, they're getting new recruits, they're mass mobilizing, and so on and so on. The DSA specifically is creating an apparatus with Hassan Piker to combat legacy media and to create what has becoming a form of parallel electoral and activist infrastructure. Now, most of my guerrillas are being extremely reductive when they say it's all Democrat establishment shit. That's not true. The reason we think that, rightfully, is because we have never taken that for granted. Like, when has the ACP just been like, oh yeah, that's just kind of like the network, that's kind of the milieu, like, yeah, we just get all this fucking funding from all these like working families party. Like, we've never been able to tap into shit and take it for granted. All the resources we have, we know the price of these resources because they fucking come out of our pockets and they're fucking costly, right? So we do have resentment toward the DSA because they have always taken for granted the hegemony of the bourgeoisie. But that has made us lose sight over an emerging contradiction between, yes, the bourgeois hegemony from which they arose and took for granted, and this new cybernetic runaway process of Hassan Piker plus DSA happening in New York City, which is creating something that has made the Democrat establishment very nervous. You are delusional if you're blind to these realities. I'm sorry to tell you. The Democratic establishment wanted to back Zoran Mamdani really bad, and they really wanted Zoran Mamdani to be their guy. But by the looks of it, I look, you're preaching to the choir when but Zoran's a Zionist, and I know, but what are look at the fine differences, though. There are fracture lines. That's the only thing that matters. Analyzing the contradictions among the enemy. That's what Lenin said we have to keep doing, okay? So taking for granted the fact that Zoran Mamdani is not the second coming of Lenin, big shocker, taking that for granted, the way that he endorsed those 3 congressional primaries and went against the incumbents made the Democratic establishment nervous. They got fucking nervous. They're like, Zoran, that's not cool. You're kind of upsetting the system now. If you read the narratives by the Democratic establishment right now, they're comparing the Zoran DSA Hassan thing. They're comparing the Zoran Pikerdom to MAGA. They're saying this is like MAGA. They're saying you're acting like MAGA in the Democratic Party. What? You're literally commandeering these congressional seats using the pure brute force of Hassan Piker's parasocial social media influence combined with Zoran Mamdani's new cult of personality, and it's making the Democratic establishment feel uneasy. But why are they not doing anything about it? What the fuck? Anti-Matt TV, what the fuck, man? Appreciate the 100. Holy shit. Anti-Matt TV, wow. Holy fuck, thank you, brother. Wow. Wow. Major W. Thank you, bro. But to continue, just to show you how important this is that I continue this and not forget about it. That's how vital it is that I feel that I need to fucking tell you about this, okay? And I need to break this down to you. It's the infrared renaissance, right? There is an emerging friction going on between the Zoran Pikerdom and the Democratic establishment mainstream. And the reason why the Democratic establishment is not acting drastically on this basis, the reason they're not cracking down and taking drastic measures to fucking do something about it is very simple. Anyone who's like, oh, Zoran's the future of the Democratic Party, you're being presumptuous. You're not paying attention to the fact there's a contradiction going on here, okay? The contradiction doesn't seem like it's antagonistic because the Democratic establishment is not able to do anything about it. Why? Because they themselves are stuck between a rock and a hard place for a number of reasons. One, the Democratic establishment, although we're conspiracy theorists and we like to be conspiracy theorists, the bourgeoisie has an expiration date biologically. These guys are old. Soros is fucking old, and Alex Soros is like some kind of fucking cokehead that's banging hookers all day, all right? Alex doesn't have George Soros's like comprehensive philosophical like worldview or some shit, right? Don't ask me how I know that Alex Soros is like a cokehead. I don't even know where I got that from. Someone told me that. I don't even fucking remember who. Anyway, it's like Hunter Biden or something, right? But that generation of Democrats are dying. They're very out of touch. They're extremely out of touch. They're just not even like, I don't think they have a plan for the future because they're very old and they're out of touch and they're rooted in legacy media. They're rooted in legacy money and they're rooted in legacy institutions. I don't know if you guys know this, but we're on the precipice of some kind of fucking revolution in this country right now because of this generational gap caused by social media and the information age. So before you attribute these vast powers to the DNC and the Democratic establishment, understand that that very same establishment is physically expiring and physically dying, okay? And they're like losing touch. They're out of touch, like Kamala Harris. Okay, so there's that. They're old. There's an expiration date. The second thing, the specific Democratic Party strategy of appeal to the center, sensible politics was really discredited in 2024, even within the party. Right now, even within the DNC and the Democratic Party, the Kamala Harris, like Destiny style of Democratic centrist politics is a very hard sell because a lot of people feel like it's been discredited with Trump's victory in 2024. So there's a lot of uneasiness within the Democratic Party because of that. The third thing, guys, I hope you're fucking every single thing that I'm listing and naming, I hope you're fucking paying close attention to them. Third thing, or fourth thing, where the fuck am I? I think I'm on the fourth. Fourth thing. Democratic Party doesn't have a vision. Because of all the reasons I just named, they have no positive vision besides opposing Donald Trump. That, as much as it's a layup for the Democratic Party right now, because of nationwide dissatisfaction and disapproval with Donald Trump, the fact of the matter remains that if you don't have a positive alternative, that it's not going to be enough to just say we're not Donald Trump. You need a positive alternative. I'm aware that Gavin Newsom and Hunter Biden are trying to appear one way or the other, but I think everyone transparently sees that this is just devoid of anything really vigorous and really fresh. And for us, the DSA, Rabbi, what's up, man? For us, the DSA are fucking dead as dogs, and they're old and musty and shit. But relative to U.S. politics, the kind of democratic socialist thing, it's spicy, it's interesting, and it has energy going on. There's energy and momentum that's going with it. So, Rabbi to here with the 10. What the fuck is up, bro? Appreciate you. So look, there's just an inability to have an alternative to what the DSA is offering. The DSA is filling a vacuum that nobody's able to fulfill right now. MAGA is basically dead and dispersed because of Trump. And populist politics, I hate to say it, but the only real populist momentum that has any positive character right now is being filled by the DSA. When I say populist, I mean something nominally, not directly an extension of the establishment. Because Trump, as much as he conflicted with the legacy media and all these institutions, he was attached at the hip to the Adelsons, which is why he was so close with Netanyahu. J.D. Vance is with Peter Thiel in Silicon Valley. He's not considered a real populist. The Democratic Party, you can have Newsom and Hunter Biden pretend to be these cool, relatable people all they want, but they are the direct lab creations of the bourgeoisie. I am not going to sit here and delusionally claim that the DSA is directly just the lab creation of the bourgeoisie. Are they unprincipled opportunists who take for granted the support from the bourgeois hegemony? Yes. Was Zoran Mamdani a slimy scammer who wormed his way up through the bourgeois hegemony? Yeah, he was. They all took that they all prostitutes who sold their soul to the Democratic Party. But they are not from the Democratic Party. Neither is Hassan Piker. The Pikerdom, which is the Hassan Piker community and movement and momentum, which don't underestimate, it's a very powerful force. If ACP is a powerful force, a lot of that came from the infrared movement. Just imagine what someone who gets 30,000 concurrent viewers, how does that translate into real life? Pretty significant, actually. So, in any case, there is a distinction, and we can map the distinction on the basis of class analysis. The DSA is a self-organization of the professional petty bourgeoisie. It's like a guild. They've always their whole bread tube union politics was always petty bourgeois guild politics. Yeah, let's come together, furry digital artists, band together our common petty bourgeois interests into some kind of guild, some kind of corporate, some kind of fascist. Hate to go there. But it is like a bundle of sticks. It's a bundle of discrete, individualistic interests that band together to defend their common petty bourgeois individualism. It's not mass collectivistic proletarian like trade union consciousness or something. It's petty bourgeois guild politics. It's like yellow unionism or some shit. The DSA bread tube shit, like that's always been what it was, guild politics of the petty bourgeoisie. But in any case, that is not the same thing directly as the direct monopoly bourgeoisie. The direct monopoly bourgeoisie are literally the people from Eyes Wide Shut who are doing those Babylonian sex orgy parties. Now, granted, the DSA people are also doing sex orgy parties, but they're not doing it in a mansion somewhere. They're doing it in some apartment, and it's a bunch of fat, disgusting people with pink hair who don't shower, who in a polycule, who are doing it. And they're not wearing masks and hoods. They're doing it with their window open, and the whole neighborhood can hear them, right? So as debauched and degenerate as they are not the eyes wide shut, like deep imperial hegemonic bourgeoisie, right? They are at a lower level, okay? And you're delusional if you think otherwise, by the way. And in any case, here's the difference. For the longest time, since Donald Trump won in 2016, there's been an alliance, implicit alliance, between the eyes wide shut bourgeoisie and the professional petty bourgeoisie. The eyes wide shut bourgeoisie felt threatened by the Trump MAGA populism, and the professional petty bourgeoisie felt threatened by the resurgence of some kind of working class populism that they saw as antagonistic to their class interests, because it was explicitly founded on like a war on the institutions, which they depend on for a living, right? The sanctity and political correctness of these institutions that they depend on for their revenues, for their way of living, right? So in any case, there's been an alliance between the DSA and like the Soros imperialist financial bourgeoisie. There's been an alliance, but that alliance has been breaking as of recent. Why? Because as the professional petty bourgeoisie is increasingly indebted and its expectations for career advancement are not being met, and as they are increasingly gatekept out of the elite institutions controlled by the imperialist bourgeoisie, we have started to notice a divergence. Now, the first form of the divergence came from the Palestine movement, in my opinion. But why? Is it because the professional petty bourgeoisie loves Palestine? No. Because when activists started to voice their pro-Palestinian concerns, they started just getting fired from universities. Started getting fired from their positions. Out of these like hegemonic bourgeois institutions, these corporations, fired. And that became a rallying cry and symbol of the antagonism between the professional petty bourgeoisie and the imperialist bourgeoisie. And ever since then, it's been the primary form of antagonism and friction between the two. It's like a receptacle of all the diverging class interests. Professional petty bourgeoisie aspires to having some kind of secure salary job. They want to live in Bushwick, whatever the fuck that is. They want to be able to, be interpretive dance instructors or furry digital artists, and they want to have, they want to make $150K a year, and they want all the benefits that come from corporate benefits, and they want adult daycares where all their feelings are placated to. But they don't want to be 200K in debt. They don't want to fucking be gatekept out of having higher positions because of nepotism. Because like George Soros' son gets to have first pick when it comes to whatever position they're looking for. They don't want to have their job be replaced by AI. Why do you think they're so against AI, by the way? Their creative job taken by AI. They don't want to be immiserated. And most importantly, they don't want to be proletarianized. They don't want to be declassed. But the default trajectory is lumpenization. As they increasingly get declassed, they start to feel a kind of solidarity with the lumpen. They start to do drugs. They start to like be more edgy and whatever because they're being declassed, because they're realizing, I'm not making it. This career thing is not working out. And although that's the main thing I dream of having and I'm aspiring toward, I'm kind of just going to fucking give up and become like a crackhead because this is not working, right? So like that's what's happening to the professional petty bourgeoisie. And I am telling you that the contradiction between the hegemonic bourgeoisie, the big bourgeoisie, and the professional petty bourgeoisie is taking the form of the conflict between the establishment Democratic Party and now the DSA. And the scary thing, it's not scary, the interesting thing, now the DSA is starting to acquire legs that you cannot reduce to the Democratic Party. Sure, in a lot of ways, they still depend on alignment and some kind of rootedness in these, like this DNC ecosystem. But there's a clear conflict going on in that ecosystem for the future of the Democratic Party. And it's rooted in that very class distinction. And in New York City, for the first time, because this conflict also happened in a lot of ways with Bernie in 2016. It also happened in a lot of ways with AOC and the Squad and all this. And in every single case, I remember in 2018 during the midterms, okay? 2018 midterms were straight up what made me realize Pol Pot might have been right. That's a joke, but I analyzed those midterms very closely. I was keeping up with them, you know? And what basically happened is that it became clear that all the progressive Democrats and the DSA types were fundamentally rooted in the professional petty bourgeoisie. And the way the establishment Democratic Party got a leg over them was that it leveraged its basis and its foundation in two things. It was drawing from middle-class suburbanite Republicans who were converting to the Democratic Party en masse because of Trump, but it was also drawing from the unions. And a combination of those two factors allowed them to crush this rebellion of the professional petty bourgeoisie. So for 10 years, the professional petty bourgeoisie has been marginally attempting to challenge the Democratic mainstream, but they've been failing. But in New York City in particular, they are so heavily concentrated that the professional petty bourgeoisie is a concentrated electoral mass. And they were able to band together and have this kind of new, vigorous solidarity that is this self-organization and self-awareness that enabled them to actually win. And that only happened because in New York City, they are concentrated as a population. But here's the problem. Forget about the rest of the nation. When you scale this up demographically, from New York City to New York State, let's scale it up to New York State, we don't find the concentration of the professional petty bourgeoisie electorally as an electoral mass in the same way. They are more scattered, they're more separated, and that is where the centrist Democrats and the Republicans thrive. The centrist Democrats, so here's my prediction. I have a basic prediction, okay? As this momentum continues to build, as the professional petty bourgeoisie acquires legs to stand on, hell, maybe it even can start running, right? As this thing spreads, because this is the thing that's filling the vacuum of leadership within the Democratic Party right now. At a certain critical point, the Epsteinian wing of the Democratic Party, the eyes wide shut part of the Democratic Party, which is the ones who rule the Democratic Party, they're going to do something so decisive, so catastrophic, so dramatic. They're going to pop the bubble and burst the expectations of the professional petty bourgeoisie and crush them. And the way that they're going to crush them can be a multiplicity of scenarios. Maybe they'll team up with the Republicans. That's a distinct possibility. Or what they'll do is leverage the existing support that they have among the unions. Remember, those are a factor. Because remember, the majority of the trade unions in New York City favored the incumbents, not the DSA. The DSA is not rooted in organized labor. Organized labor is very skeptical of the DSA and the progressives. Organized labor is firmly rooted in the Democratic establishment, okay? So organized labor, which is a proxy for the blue-collar strongholds that the Democratic Party miraculously has been able to continue retaining its basis and support from. Or, okay, it's going to draw from the black working class or the Latino working class, where it has a kind of Tammany Hall embedded kind of corrupt thing that's going on in those communities. It's going to be ironic because what's going to happen is the Democratic establishment is going to tap into groups like immigrants and migrants that it had brought over the border to crush and discipline these primarily white DSA professional petty bourgeois. And that's it's just going to happen. There's whichever path that is, or a combination of all thereof. When this scales out on a nationwide scale, the DSA is going to get the most humiliating, crushing, whipping defeat the American left has ever gotten since Bernie Sanders in 2016. And when that happens, politically speaking, it is going to signify to the professional petty bourgeoisie that there is no way it can avoid being declassed. The DSA is the last. It's like the Paris Commune, but instead of the proletariat, they're waving the banner of the professional petty bourgeoisie, right? And it's like their rebellion will be crushed. And when it's crushed, that is going to be the turning point in this nation. That proves to an entire class of people and our entire generation that aspiring toward the professional petty bourgeoisie will not work. There is no way that they will join or retain their status as members of the professional petty bourgeoisie. And at that point, I would say 80 to 90% are going to accept lumpenization, which when you translate that politically is going to take on two forms. I hope you're following very closely. Nihilism, nihilist terrorism, adventurism, or they're going to join the far right. So what do we have to keep our eyes peeled on? We have to keep our eyes peeled on the 10 to 20% who will go into the trades, who will become proletarianized, who will accept proletarianization. There's going to be, although they're going to be the minority, it's going to be a lot of fucking people that realize none of these jobs being taken by AI are tenable. I have to join the trades. I have to become a blue-collar worker. That demographic of people already has a pre-existing online discursive movement, the infrared movement, and a political organization, the ACP, which is founded upon the acceptance of proletarianization and the recognition that we have to begin from the premise of proletarianization. We can't cling to petty bourgeois illusions. We need to accept the inevitability of these career-oriented illusions being shattered. That's when we, in my opinion, I'm making a prediction like Zoltar, okay? My crystal ball prediction is that when that happens, the ACP is going to become a major mass movement in this country, potentially growing to like 10,000 people very rapidly and quickly. That's my prediction. My prediction is that when the illusion of the DSA is shattered for the hundreds of thousands of people that are investing hope in it, that's going to be the turning point that people will say this is when the ACP started to actually fucking become big and become a big force. And, you know, the problem is nobody's prepared for any of this right now because the way you guys are moving is that you're just moving by crossing your arms and coping. The way we need to be moving is realizing that if we don't seize this historical moment actively, if we don't make this happen and prepare for it, all of it's going to go to the far right. The far right's going to take all of it. And you have to remember something Ernest Talman said when he said, first Hitler, then it's our turn, right? Well, I'm saying first DSA, then it's our turn. That's my attitude. First it's going to be the DSA. They're having their time in the sun. But right after them is going to be our turn. And it all lines up ideologically and discursively as well. Because you do realize in the state of this country, most people are not even comfortable with any isms at all. And once the Overton window shifts about the word socialism and democratic socialism itself, Communism is no longer going to be radical to people. And by the way, Trump already is starting to call them communists, which is going to have a Barbara Streisand effect or whatever, and normalize the word communism. And just purely on an ideological, semantical, discursive level, or semiotic level, I should say, the Overton window is going to start shifting in a way where we're not going to be extremists anymore. We're probably going to be considered quite rational, moderate, and reasonable. And the DSA is helping push that Overton window for us, okay? And by the way, if you find that crazy, I want you to understand that in a whole lot of countries in the world, communism is very normal. It's not like there's communists in parliament, like it's a mainstream thing. There's nothing extreme about it. But what the DSA is doing is it's helped pushing the Overton window to line things up for us to eventually just wake up one day and be like, wow, a lot of people actually fuck with us. You want to know what's fucking crazy? I'm talking about this as though this is something that will happen into the future, correct? Everyone can see clearly, like, that's how I'm talking about it, right? Ones of you can see that's how I'm talking about it. Okay. But the really fucked up thing is that that's actually happening now. That's actually happening now. If I had people doing infrared shit on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube full time, spreading the vision and spreading the message, because all I can do are the live streams, and I can do the writings that I just fucking showed you, and I can do I can try to post on the Instagram, but notice how I can't do that every day simultaneously. Like tomorrow, I plan on posting on the Instagram again, right? Because I didn't have time to do it today. So it's like, and God, I can't even start thinking about YouTube, right? But if you guys believe in this strategy and vision, and you enable me to free up the revenues of infrared, to expand infrared, if I started doing this right fucking now, infrared would go viral. Now, I'm not going to exaggerate. I'm not going to say Professor Jong viral. I'm not going to say John Kiriakou viral. But I will say the infrared channel will get to 100,000 subs. If we started this right now, we'd be at 100,000 subs by the end of the summer. And I have no doubt about that at all. If we started now, we're not going to start now, I understand that. But if we started doing that now, infrared channel will be at 100,000 by the end of the summer. Right? And I would probably be at 750 to 1,000 concurrent by the end of the summer. If we started that process right now. You might think that's far-fetched, but an intentional, methodical strategy, pumping out content every fucking day of the summer, every fucking day on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and all of this is being directed from me at the center as a strategy. And I'm putting money toward this, and I'm paying people. Maybe I either hire one person full time, or I pay like 3 people to do it part time. In any case, if infrared resources can go into that, infrared will grow because people are all ready to fucking hear this. The thing that I told you that's going to happen in the future. Already, there's a lot of people who see that happening now. They're becoming blue-collar workers now. They're getting disillusioned with the DSA now. The Overton window is shifting now. You go on Instagram. You go on TikTok. You go on YouTube. Communism is being normalized. The Overton window is fucking shifting. And something like the infrared movement has never been more primed to become a mass, fucking hugely viral online movement than now. So the time for that is now, okay? And, we don't even need to wait. The best way to start preparing for the thing that I'm telling you is going to happen is by seizing on it now. It's a process in motion. If we start thinking now, strategizing now, by the time the thing I tell you happens, let me tell you something. This is my vision. By the time the DSA fails, okay? By the time the DSA's vision or whatever, by the time that fucking falls flat on its face and totally fails and is left in the mud, I want it to not even be a surprise to our movement. Like, tens of thousands of people will be like, and we've been saying that. So it's not even going to have a black pill. We're going to skip the black pill thing. It's going to be like, everyone's going to be like, infrared is up, ACP is up. That's the zeitgeist. That's what these events prove. Like, immediately we're on it. Immediately everyone can see that we were saying loudly the right thing the entire time. We need to be like Lenin and seize on this now. Because this is what happened with Kerensky. When Kerensky was in charge during the Russian Revolution, Lenin said, get the fuck on this now. So in the summer, the Bolsheviks began their sweep. And they aggressively used their media reach, which they got from the fucking bank robbery decades ago, to push. So every fuck up that was happening on the front, every demoralization that was sweeping the nation of the February Revolution, it was making the Bolsheviks like, we up. We're getting that shit. We need to reap the destruction of the DSA in the same way. We need to line all of our ducks up so when the DSA fucking collapses, the national headline's going to be ACP is up, infrared is up. This marks a huge stage in the rise of this movement. The last opposition was discredited. Now we fucking up, and there's this big giant fucking thing happening. All right? That's not going to work if we wait for it to happen. We have to start aggressively preparing our strategy around the expectation that the DSA is going to fail now. We need to start pushing now, right, that the DSA thing is a road to nowhere. And if there's a single chance anyone can win local electoral positions this year, I'm talking city council. I'm talking about, God forbid, mayorship in a really small town. Take it. I don't care what the position is. If you're in the ACP and you could take a position that's up for grabs, primarily in a small town, you need to fucking take it. Okay? And let me explain to you what the meaningfulness of that is and what that's going to signify and what that fucking means. So all of the, electoral politics is not about being able to affect policy. It's about the story. If you can get a story that communists want in a small town, that's a story that speaks for itself. Everyone's going to realize, oh my God, this is possible, this is tenable. It's a proof of concept. When the DSA is able to get multiple people in Congress and the mayor of New York City, I'm sorry to say, but right now at the moment, they are up. That's a convincing story. It's like compared to the Maoist Red Guard faction in Portland, Oregon, that is doing, cracker self-flagellation courses. It seems like, okay, well, that's a pretty convincing narrative. Like, they're winning. It's viable. It's tenable. And so right now, DSA is up if you have short-term vision. You come to infrared for the infrared vision, for the long-term vision, to get the fucking understanding of, okay, in the short term, X, Y, and Z is happening. But what does it mean in the grand scheme of things, right? And my explanation to you is that in the grand scheme of things, what's happening right now is that we are fucking retarded if we don't prepare and strategize a way to reap and benefit from the DSA's inevitably failed rebellion against the Democratic establishment. I told you that MAGA was going to turn on Trump for years. Now I'm telling you that the Democratic establishment and the DNC are going to crush the DSA's rebellion. And when they do crush that rebellion, the Overton window will have already shifted to the point, and people will have acquired a degree of class realism to the point where the only organization that will competently be able to reap the rewards of what happened is the American Communist Party. The only reason the ACP has not been growing rapidly into 20,000 people by now is because the professional petty bourgeoisie, which makes up the majority of the left, still clings to the illusion that it is somehow going to be able to retain its class position. And this is what you call the class illusion. Okay? Now, why is it that the majority of the left is rooted in the professional petty bourgeoisie? Because it always has been. The left has always been drawn from the petty bourgeoisie throughout history. I'm not just talking about like the Lenins and the individual activists. I'm talking about the first people to be won over to socialist ideas were the petty bourgeoisie. That's a fact. You look at it in the 1800s, the first segments of the populations who were won over to the socialist idea were the petty bourgeoisie, whose class position was being threatened, and they didn't want to fall into proletarianization, so they took up the idea of socialism, which was originally like a guild socialism. I'm not talking about Lassalle, that's the late 19th century. I'm talking about the early 19th century, and even the late 18th century, okay? I never want to hear the fucking name Lassalle for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, it triggers me. It's a trigger word. Don't fucking say it, okay? It's like a Sood favorite word among Soods, okay? Socialism and the left has always been rooted in the petty bourgeoisie. Initially, right? It was really a turn of events that were primarily accidental that made it a proletarian movement in places like France. In France, when the petty bourgeoisie discarded its class illusions, it went from a socialist movement to a communist movement. So communism spontaneously was a proletarian movement. Remember, I want you guys to always get this in your head. The word socialism always originates among the petty bourgeoisie. The word communism starts to be used and starts to be widespread when the petty bourgeois movement evolves into a proletarian movement. And this happened twice in history that I can recount. The first time it happened was in the 19th century, around the time of 1848, right? Before then, you had a post-French Revolution, middle-class, petty bourgeois, socialist movement, right? When the proletariat finally gained self-consciousness and realized we don't want to cling to these illusions, they adopted communism. Frederick Engels talks about that distinction, by the way. Communism became associated with the rough-hewn working class. And then it happened a second time with the October Revolution. Socialism and social democracy was primarily associated with the inceptual professional petty bourgeoisie and also the labor aristocracy, which is also a kind of petty bourgeoisie, right? And then when Lenin decisively drew the line between the proletariat and this professional petty bourgeoisie that preponderated social democracy, they started calling themselves communists, and it went from the Second International to the Third International or the Communist International, right? So the word communism always enters into popularity when the proletariat is able to rise free from petty bourgeois illusions, right? And something similar is happening in America today. Right now, you have a socialist movement, quote unquote, rooted in the disgruntled professional petty bourgeoisie. In order for that to become a communist movement, the petty bourgeois illusions of retaining their class position in the midst of AI have to be shattered. Once those hopes are shattered and crushed, remember, AI is the primary driver behind all this, then people will accept proletarianization. Once they accept proletarianization, they will then understand the meaning of communist politics. No petty bourgeois illusions. We're beginning from the premise that we are proletarians. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Nothing to lose but our chains. That's how you get communist politics. Majority of Americans are not there yet. We are there because I gave you infrared vision. You are fucking time travelers. Majority of the nation's not there yet. Doesn't mean we have an excuse to not get on it now, because they're just about in the process of getting ready to be, and they're starting to be. We don't capitalize on that. We get buried into irrelevance for 10,000 years. Can't fucking happen. So, proletarianization, it's happening now. Okay? And we have to prepare for that because it's happening. And we have to reap the rewards from it as an organization and as a movement. I see a timeline. I see two paths. I see two timelines. I do see a timeline where we sit with our fucking arms crossed into obscurity and everyone just fucking goes, everyone just fucking starts to posture and talk about like, well, we're right and you're wrong. It's like nobody's prepared and nobody prepares, and that this thing will like pass us by and we'll be too confused to seize on it, and then we will end up looking like retards in 2 years, come 2028 or something, and we're just gonna be like sitting in obscurity, like an old man yelling at the clouds or some shit. I could see that potentially happening, or I could see us capitalizing off of this shit. And this is a key moment, breakthrough moment for 2036. It's not going to come easy. It's not going to come as a given. We have to fight for it. We have to seize the tides of proletarianization and shore those up into our party, American Communist Party. You understand? And the infrared movement as the pipeline. Because you need the infrared vision before you can be a cadre of the party. You can't join the ACP and bring with you all these petty bourgeois illusions. Which some people do join the ACP with petty bourgeois illusions. Petty bourgeois professional illusions. Two of those people were wreckers who tried to betray the party. Why were the wreckers able to worm their way to the top? Because the party was not being guided by the vision. That was my fault. Because I said, you know what? Infrared is a previous stage, I guess. And no, infrared's not a stage. That's our North Star. That's our guiding star. If we don't have the guiding star, if we don't have the infrared vision, we will fall into the retardation of the present instead of having a vision firmly rooted in the future. If we don't have a vision in 2036, we will fucking fall into petty bourgeois corruption and retardation and wholesome Chungisism. We will fall into Chungaloidism. Only one thing is keeping us lean. The thing that keeps us lean is that infrared vision. Keeps us lean. If we don't have it, we turn into Chungaloids. Okay? And Chungaloids, that's the professional petty bourgeoisie. You want to be in a Chungaloid? In a DSA polycule? Is that what you want? If you don't have the infrared vision, you're going to wake up one day in a Chungaloid polycule. Not under my watch. So we need the infrared vision. We've always needed it. This is the thing that allows, this is the strategic vision I'm sharing with you. Kuzdev, what's up, man? Appreciate the 10. This is the thing that I'm sharing with you. This is the strategic vision that has to inform and guide the ACP. Because how can we be the American Communist Party and be directionless? The DSA got 2,000 members in one day. Twice the total members of our party. Just around twice, right? If we are not thinking strategically in the long term and have a fucking pulse on the future that is very comprehensive, we will die and we will languish. We will wither and die or become a retarded sect. I did not fucking sign up for us to be a self-congratulating copium delusional sect. There's plenty of those that already fucking exist. I don't think you signed up for that either. We signed up to win the future. That's what this is about. And if we are in the American Communist Party based on arrogance, saying we don't need this vision into the future, we already have the ACP. Come on down, join the American. No, we have to have a direction. The ship has not reached its destination. It's nowhere close to its destination. We can't be content with what we already have. We have to always articulate what we have, and we have plenty, by the way, but we always have to contextualize and articulate what we have with a strategic vision that aligns us with the future. If we don't have that, we look retarded. If ACP is so much more superior to the DSA, why do we only have 1,000 members? And if your excuse for that is we don't have all the access to bourgeois money that they do, and we're deplatformed, and we're canceled, and we're slandered, and we're persecuted by the feds, you know what history is going to say to you? They're going to tell you, too fucking bad, you snooze, you lose. So I refuse to be contented with the situation we find ourselves in. The fact of the matter is, we need to anticipate the exact material conditions that will lead to our party, the American Communist Party, being the big dog in the house. And that can happen. It's not inevitable if we don't fight for it. If we don't prepare for it, if we don't properly anticipate it, it will pass us by. But if we properly understand the material conditions in which we could reap very bigly from something that will inevitably happen, we can actually seize upon a critical juncture in history that culminates in 2036. And I laid out to you what those terms and conditions are. DSA will rebel against the DNC. It will rebel and be crushed. When it's crushed, we have to be there. We have to be the ones who already yesterday made sense of why that happened. Who already yesterday were building ourselves up as a strong force, a strong bulwark, articulating why that was inevitable. Infrared, RTSG, Midwestern Marks, Red God, Jackson Hinkle, full frontal fucking assault, media ecosystem, pushing and pushing and pushing, non-stop every fucking day, especially infrared, by the way, but combined infrared with everything else, and we're just full fucking frontal assault continuously every fucking day. We will eventually create the discursive conditions that make it inevitable that everything falls into our lap. You have to be stupid not to see it. Ones, if you see the vision. Master, what's up? Ones, if you understand. This momentum, the DSA, this fire that they've started is a chapter in our story because it's not sustainable. Think about it in a materialist way. The professional petty bourgeoisie cannot create the infrastructure that can challenge the bourgeois hegemony and the institutions of the bourgeoisie. The only class that can do that is the proletariat. A guild of furry digital artists cannot challenge mining conglomerates. But you want to know who can challenge the mining conglomerates? Fucking miners! Fucking a guild of fucking furry costume makers cannot fucking challenge the trillions of dollars of monopoly rent that are collateralized by fucking oil, energy, mining, construction. But you know who fucking can? The miners. miners, the oil workers, the construction workers, the truckers. That's the fucking belly of the beast. That's the fucking foundation of all their billions, all their trillions, all their multi-millions, all their fucking institutions, all their infrastructure, all of their power. It comes from the hard labor, the material labor of the fucking working class. Only the organized proletariat can challenge the fucking system. The DSA will secure victories in places with a concentration of the professional petty bourgeoisie in New York City, but scale it nationwide. It's a no-brainer. They're going to be slaughtered electorally by the Democratic establishment. They have no they have no access to the actual material forces of production that collateralize the power of the imperialist bourgeoisie. And as a consequence, nationwide, when they go toe-to-toe with the Democratic establishment, they're going to get crushed. It's inevitable. We need to be the ones that people are going to look to when that fucking happens. It's simple common sense. The DSA can't do it. Our response to this shouldn't be, oh, the DSA are shills and sellouts. No, the DSA is going to fail. The Democratic establishment is going to win. It doesn't matter how. You have to be a retard like Mike from PA to not get this. Because people like him and these others, they look at the discourse and they're like, oh, Gavin Newsom is so much more stale than Zoran. Zoran's so like, of course these dinosaurs, they can win, dude, because they have all the fucking money. Unless you're going to do a fucking revolution and take all of their fucking money, which you're not going to do, at the end of the day, they will win. It doesn't matter how less charismatic they are. It doesn't matter how out of touch they are. If they have a monopoly on the means of production, which they fucking do, they will crush you, dude. They will crush you. You don't have a fucking chance. The people that control the railroads, the fucking ships, the ports, like, I don't care, dude. You can be more charismatic all you want. You can be more fresh and youthful and energetic. It doesn't matter. You can't go toe-to-toe with people who have unlimited money. You can't. You want to know how I know that? Because if I wrote a check of $15 million to Mike from PA to tell him to shut the fuck up for the rest of his life, he would take it. But they have an unlimited budget. There's no amount of people. There's no amount of activists they can't corrupt and bribe. There's no amount of people they can't give money to, hey, just go kill that guy. Isn't that what they did to the Black Panthers? You're not even close to the Black Panthers. You're the DSA. Like, a lot of these DSA people, they're like, oh, we totally got it. You don't got it, though. You don't. You really don't. The only thing that can beat the bourgeoisie is the proletariat. Petty bourgeois rebellions will always fail. Every single time they're going to fail. Isn't the infrared vision clear? A lot of people are like, Haas, you gibber babble. No. Isn't this fucking clear, though? Isn't it fucking lucid and crystal clear what I'm fucking saying? Just like basic fucking common sense. DSA is rooted in the professional petty bourgeoisie. They do not have enough material foundation. Doesn't matter how much they go hard with the media. Doesn't matter how much canvassers and activists and whatever the fuck they have. The Democratic establishment will outsmart them with the intelligence of money alone. So when people say I'm a fucking cult leader, my first response is based. My second response is, what the fuck about what I'm saying is irrational? What the fuck about what I'm saying is somehow not rooted? And isn't this a clear fucking thing I'm telling you? The DSA, this precise momentum, this is the bubble that will pop and unleash communism on this nation. Democratic socialism is the last thing. It's like the Freudian fetish. It's a Freudian fetish. It's the last thing a man will see before he accepts the fact that a woman doesn't have a penis or something. That's what Freud said, right? That's the DSA. It's a Freudian fetish. I know that's a little too literal for our contemporary whatever, but that's directly the Freudian fetish, right? That Freud talks about. You think I sound strange? Go take it up with Freud. That's his idea. That you have a fetish because you're unable to accept the fact that the women is not another name for the father. The women is not disguising the Oedipal signifier. I'm not going to get into it, right? But just understand that's what the DSA is, okay? Just accept and digest that that's something the DSA is. It's a Freudian fetish. It's the last thing the country is going to see before it understands and accepts that the only way forward is communism. And the only thing to worry, I'm going to tell you another thing. Another Nostradamus prediction. Are you ready for another Nostradamus prediction? Once if you're ready for another Nostradamus prediction. The right wing is dead. Don't worry about the right wing for now. They're dead. Right wing is totally dead. But the same thing I'm talking about, the right wing is also going to benefit from it.
Hob added 10 to the war chest,
what's
just
up?
sent 250 to the party and am restarting my national dues at 250 on July 1st. ACP 2036.
Hob, thank you so much, bro. Appreciate it. I mean, I know I'm confusing you guys. I am confusing you guys with the retainer dues strategy because I said if you start giving retainer dues voluntarily and I get a voluntary salary from the party through that, that's how I'm going to be able to use infrared capital to invest in expanding infrared. But then some of you guys raised the point of like, well, shouldn't we just do it through Patreon? I would say all I need to cap out is $5,000 a month. Anything beyond that is going to be going back into infrared. So you could do it through the Patreon or you could do it through the party. But I'm not going to take anything more than that from whatever. You understand? But I think the party might even be better just because ultimately my full-time job is being chairman of the American Communist Party, right? And it makes me more, I mean, just, it's not even just symbolically, it's like, you need to understand this is a critical function of the office of chairman at this point. And I don't like separating infrared from the party. I just don't like it. I don't like having to be this dual face thing. I'm one person. I'm the chairman of the ACP. I'm locked the fuck in on this strategy, which infrared plays a big fucking part in, right? But in any case, I'm not going to get into that. But thank you so much. And it has to be totally voluntary. I will never accept. I'm not going to say never because maybe 2 years down the line when we have a ton of money we're raking in. Look, Barrio, for as long as we are not raking in serious money as a party, I will never accept income that comes from mandatory dues or a salary that's based in mandatory dues. I'll never accept that. Even though I think you guys would do it, I won't accept it in principle. Because I only want your faith. I don't want to force you to fucking pay my salary as a condition of being part of this community. I want your faith. That's it. If I don't have that, I shouldn't be leading you if I don't have that. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. In any case, where was I before I got into this? Specifically. You should set up a debate with the. I want to talk to the geese people in person. There's some of the people that they epitomize the wrong position as a Marxist, but they're intelligent enough to make that mistake. So I have to give it to them. Oh yeah, the right wing is dead. Thank you so much. So this is my Nostradamus prediction. Okay. Right now, the right wing is dead. From now until 2028, the right wing is basically dead. But the thing that's going to catalyze a rebirth of the right is going to be the failure of the DSA. Basically, think of it this way. The DSA, petty bourgeois professional rebellion, it's going to captivate the nation. Almost like MAGA did, right? It's going to captivate and seize upon the nation. And then it's going to just fucking get crushed. It's going to get crushed. And that crushing is going to shatter the illusion of the professional petty bourgeoisie. That's going to be the moment they're going to lose hope that they can retain their class position. And that's going to be the rallying standard banner of the declassing of the professional petty bourgeoisie. But the dangerous thing, the majority of them are going to lumpenize. Only a minority will proletarianize. Majority of them will and are already lumpenizing, by the way. Already they're lumpenizing. And I'm not saying when, I'm saying as they lumpenize, a psychopathic, nihilistic, right-wing, far-right, rape, killer, clown, pedophile, full terrorist, full nihilist, that's going to be the thing that comes after Nick Fuentes. Fuentes is dead. That's another Nostradamus prediction. Fuentes had his generation. He's dead. He's gone. We don't have to worry about that far right. They're dead. They're gone. But there's going to be a new right, new far right, that will be catalyzed by the failure of the DSA. When the DSA fails, we have to be there, or they're going to be the only people who benefit from it. We have to make communism come back from this. But while communism returns, so will Nazism. Like when the KPD formed, that's the same time the Nazi Party formed. So as social democracy, quote unquote, if it's a fault, they're not social democrats, but whatever. As this incarnation of the professional petty bourgeoisie shatters, two forms, there's going to be two trajectories of the American masses: free copization, Nazism, or communism. The ball's going to be given to us. And don't you dare fucking think Hassan Piker or any of our Mike from PA is going to have our back and give us guidance and be like, well, ACP, we're going to help you. They're going to be scattered to the wind, dude. We have to already prepare for this. This is going to fucking happen. They're not prepared. We have to prepare right now. Okay? Like when the fact that I announced this fact to the public, all the intelligent right-wingers, if they watch this stream, they're going to start preparing for the same thing. It's like Rocco's basilisk. But I have to tell the world, because that's the only way I tell you. Right? Like Mike from PA or Hassan, I don't even know these people. I'm just giving you names. They're not ready for the failure of the DSA. You want to know who is ready? Hitler, rapist, Groyper, 88, pedophile rapist. That's who's fucking ready to seize on the nihilism and lumpenization that will ensue when these DSA people lose hope. You know who they're going to become? You know how we have like a bunch of like haters? Remember that guy Fentanyl Wave, whatever the fuck his name is? Fentanyl Wave? That guy's literally the type of person I'm talking about. Like, they lumpenized, they became a fent addict, and they have this like nihilist rape obsession, total terrorist nihilist ideology. That's actually going to grow when the DSA fails and they become disillusioned with the DSA. Mm-hmm. All these edgy right-wing cults. That's who's next for the far right. Who's next up for the far right? It's like right now everyone's like, oh, the far right is dead. Yes, it is. I talked to Sneeko yesterday. Even he mentioned, yeah, the right wing is dead. Trump killed it. Fuentes dropped the ball on whatever the fuck he was trying to do. And the right wing is dead. The last leader of the right wing, I think, was Nick Fuentes, actually. But that's dead. Fuentes died with Donald Trump. I saw a clip from Nick Fuentes the other day where he's like, Trump is our ark. It's our Noah's Ark. Even he acknowledges it. The whole America First movement. The name America First came from Trump. It's attached at the hip to the era of Trumpist politics. I think Trumpism is dead. I think it's dead. And I think Nick Fuentes is dead. He was the last leader of the right wing. He's irrelevant now. He's gone. He had his run, and it's over. We haven't had our run yet, by the way. I'm telling you the exact terms and conditions in which it is and will happen, okay? Is going to and will happen. But who's up next for the right wing? Is the right wing dead forever? No. They're up next. There's a new right wing that's up next after Zoran Mamdani. It's going to be suicidal, nihilist terrorists. Lumpen. It's going to be like the real anarchists from the 1800s. They were not nice people. They were nihilistic, suicidal mass killers that would just throw bombs at crowds for no reason and shit. But that's going to come back. Okay? It's going to come from the hegemonic Democrats. Well, look, the ACP and the infrared vision, it's like a golden Stalinist path. It's a golden path. It's a I remain. It's a golden path. It's a beautiful golden path for humanity, for America, for the future. But if you look to your left or you look to your right while you're on this path, you're going to see a lot of twisted, fucked up shit. And I'm not here to be a doomer, but I'm going to tell you what we're up against. Whatever force comes into power after Trump, and I know he won't live forever, so he could try to stay in office for longer, but he won't be in office forever. Whatever comes after Donald Trump is going to be a vicious, nihilist, militarist, mass-killing machine, the likes of which this country has never seen. And it's going to watch the sky, and accelerationist mass shooters are going to watch the neighborhood. They're going to selectively be used by the federal government as the new free cops and the new black shirts. Selectively, though. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be like, you know how Hitler had to crack down on the SA? It's like, imagine this stochastic terrorism rises on a mass scale in the country where it's like a years of lead, where we're all being like uneasy all the time, like, what the hell? And the government will selectively employ these nihilistic mass killers who actually reflect the implicit, unofficial ruling ideology of the cynical nihilist, Hunter Biden, whatever state. And, selectively they crack down on them or they unleash them and turn a blind eye like the FBI does. But it's going to be this strategy of tension. It's going to be like a nationwide Columbine. Yeah, exactly. Killer clown nation. An unhinged, militarized, bloodthirsty regime that is not stable, but is constantly like killing and attacking things. And it's just like civil society is going to be taken over by killer clowns. And yeah, like the Purge, straight up. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's like, that's how it's going to feel. That's how it's going to feel. And, there's going to be anarchism at the top, anarchism at the bottom. Hitler watches the sky, the anarchists will watch the neighborhood. That's the future of America. Hitler will watch the sky, the anarchists are going to watch the neighborhood. That's going to be the future of America, okay? It's going to be the de facto new status quo. Everyone's going to be desensitized by it and shit. And it's like the whole power of the American state. Before the Civil War happens, what's going to happen is that the entire power of the state is going to massively concentrate, just like how it is under Trump right now. And it's going to be like attacking here, attacking there, but it's no longer going to be omniscient. Like right now, the American state is omniscient. It has eyes, ears, and a capacity everywhere. But when it's run Caligula style, it's going to be focused on this, that, and the next thing. And there's going to be so many blind spots in law and order. Law and order is going to turn into this like arbitrary, dumb, blind, giant force that's selectively used here or there, but also is blind elsewhere because of that, right? Like paranoia is going to be up, the nth machine, whatever the fucking KMFDM song said, right? Or was that from Nick Land? I don't know. Paranoia will up. The effectiveness of the state maintaining law and order will drastically decelerate, will drastically decrease. State capacity to maintain law and order will decrease. Stochastic terrorism within civil society will rise because of widespread lumpenization will cause social anarchy and instability. And eventually things will come to a head where the state itself cannibalizes itself and starts to fight itself. Think of the state as a giant Leviathan snake. Usually, everyone listen! Usually, the state is a Leviathan who peeks his head up. Here are the masses. All the masses are here. The snake peeks his head up. Everyone falls in line. Just the fear alone is enough. The fear alone is enough to keep the nation in line. But soon, okay, as lumpenization and pressure from the bottom, like the earth is shattering apart, as that increases, the masses will start to get bolder and bolder in terms of how unruly they are. And then the head will pop up more and more, and then it'll go down. It'll pop up more and more, and then it'll go down. And people will keep challenging the state, challenging its ability to maintain law and order, right? So eventually, the Leviathan will burst from the ground, Fadaya! And it's going to start, trying to kill his, just really, its bluff will be called. Leviathan, it's a big snake. It's going to come, it's going to attack all these masses of people, right? But you know when it loses, when it does that? The Leviathan's head, when it pops out of the ground, everyone can see it. So it's a central form of authority. When it leaves its place in order to operationally be suspended in the enforcement of law and order in civil society, the throne of power becomes a vacuum because nothing is there anymore. Why? Because the Leviathan is now there attacking Latinos there or black people here or trailer trash over there. But it's absent from the throne. The king got up from his throne, and now he's like kicking everyone's ass, and he's doing a hell of a job at it, by the way. But he's absent from his throne because of that. And this place where the Leviathan was peeping its head out was the only place where the entire nation could simultaneously have the vantage point necessary to look at the central authority and recognize it, that there is a central authority that can potentially pop out and kill. Imagine if there's a guy, he's got a gun, and imagine all you 300 gorillas are lined up, and I point the gun at you. Now, you're not going to fall out of line. I'll tell you why. You fall out of line, I'll shoot you. You fall out of line, I shoot you. Everyone knows, they're not stupid. If we all bum rush this guy, he can't shoot all of us. But, and I only have 20 bullets, but the risk that I'm going to be the one who's shot is what keeps everyone in line. That's how you have a herd of sheep. It's a literal crowd dynamic, sheep dynamic for herders, right? If I have to get to the point where I start shooting people, everyone's going to start scattering and running. Like, I'm not going to command and seize your attention anymore. And although some people will die or something, I'm not going to be able to retain central authority. So let's go back to the snake analogy. Once if you understand the Leviathan snake analogy, instead of shooting, the Leviathan pops out of the ground, he starts attacking everybody, right? Well, what do snakes tend to do when they're chaotic, when they're unleashed, when they're unhinged, and when they lack direction, and when they're submerged in this stochastic chaos of civil society? The unpredictability. Is there going to be a terrorism here, there? It has to be everywhere at once and therefore nowhere. What do snakes tend to do? Eventually, the snake will strike its own tail. Eventually. It's inevitable. The snake will strike its own tail. That, my friends, is the moment of civil war. That's when the overwhelming militarized power of the U.S. regime will attack itself. Inevitably will attack itself. And when it attacks itself, that's when American Civil War II starts. And that's when all hell breaks loose. That's when all hell is going to break loose. So, we don't have a reliable central authority. And the DSA is going to be the first one that gets shot or eaten by the snake. And when it does, it's going to be chaos. So what's our solution to this? Well, we have to organize. We have to have our own central authority. And instead of having a snake that keeps people in line out of fear, we need to have a center whose power is based on faith and devotion. You place your faith in the center. You're not kept in line by fear. You're kept in line out of devotion, out of belief. Even if the king leaves his throne, there's a king on that throne. And if I was a preacher, I would tell you that king is Jesus Christ, who's immortal and everywhere, right? But in any case, on that throne sits your eternal conviction, your eternal object of belief. You're not intimidated by force. You're not intimidated. You have no fear in your heart anymore. You only have belief. We create a principle of authority based in belief, based in devotion, based in faith. We will be the thing that people come to when all of society is in disarray because it believes in nothing except clinging to physical subsistence, terrified of the possibility that they might be the one who are next. In a world that will be, in a nation that is destined to be devoured by terrorism, by nihilism, by mass murder, by anarchy, by violence, by chaos, the only center that will hold is the one rooted in the conviction and faith that exists in the hearts of men and women. That is the rock that is immobile. That is the thing that will endure. As the throne abdicates, the real throne will be the one up in high heaven forever. They're going to send checks to everyone before this even happens. Okay. They sent checks one time. How are checks going to solve the problem of inflation? Did Trump checks accelerate nihilism, or did they give meaningfulness and purpose to people's lives? You could say they pacified people. You could say that. Did Trump checks solve the incel crisis? Did they solve the looks-maxing crisis? Did they solve these fucked up, twisted terrorist ideologies from proliferating among the masses? Actually, nothing accelerated the rise of nihilism in this nation more than the Trump checks. Because that's when everyone started going on fucking Discord and getting groomed by mass shooters or to become mass shooters. People had all these fucking time on their hands now to be totally online. And the Discord online socialization that most people were subjected to did not create a very healthy psychological archetype. Trump checks will not be a cure to lumpenization. And by the way, I am aware that we will probably never get to a point where people are starving in this country. We've reached a level of productive forces where the government can, yes, the government can continue to give unlimited welfare of some kind to prevent starvation. But lumpenization doesn't lead to mass social unrest because people are starving. Lumpenization leads to mass social unrest because their rhythms and cycles and behaviors are no longer kept in line by institutions. Remember, the number one regulator of human behavior are people's jobs. When you go to work for your 9 to 5, your behavior is being regulated in a way that's not causing the breakdown of society. But when you're unemployed or lumpen or a NEET, you have all of these choices as far as how you want to live your life. And when you're not when you don't have direction or guidance, you might wake up one day and be like, you know what, I just want to blow myself up or something. That's the danger of lumpenization, isn't that people become more desperate economically because they can't eat anymore. It's that their behaviors can't be regulated or controlled or predicted for anymore. And as a consequence of that, people fall into these pipelines and they spiral out, so to speak. And they get on these trajectories that are suicidal and ultimately, lead to suicide of some kind of suicide. I think lumpenization is causing an existential crisis for people where the unemployed, the NEET, the lumpen thing, it's like, can you tell me, like, what is a piss jar? Think about something like a piss jar. And Asmongold, you know who's the figure of the lumpenization to me? Asmongold. Asmongold and his piss jar. Asmongold, who's always on stream being like, yeah, kill him. All those people, I hope Israel kills them. Yeah, just kill them. Yeah, kill millions of people. I don't care. I just want big titties in my video games. Millions of people, kill them all. I just like my anime girl who suspiciously doesn't look of age, but that's okay. I mean, as long as it's not harming anyone, I can have VR sex porn and I can just sign off on mass murder and raping and killing children. I'm Asmongold. That's what I believe. You see, yeah, kill them all. Kill them all. I'm okay with the U.S. Killing children. I'm okay with that. All I want is big titties in my video games. That's it. And she can't really be a lesbian. But if I don't notice, I don't really mind. I just want children to be killed because that's just how it works. It's just like a video game. When you press the mouse and the keypad and there's an explosion in Call of Duty, that's just like real life. It's the same thing. Yeah. So that Asmongold lumpenization, that's going to continue to rise, right? And that's not because people are starving. It's because people are devoid of structure and purpose in their life. So they are literally accumulating piss jars, and the rhythm and routines of them pissing, shitting, and ejaculating and feeling and I don't know, like getting sunlight and like walking and exercising, all of that becomes discombobulated and scrambled so that one day you're going to wake up, you're going to go outside, and there's going to be a guy who looks like Asmongold jacking off while he's running, jogging, with a piss jar in his hand that he's going to pour on himself to cool down. while wearing a furry costume. That's the chaos and disalignment in the structure of people's lives that I'm talking about. And if it's too grotesque and TMI, too much info for you, you needed to hear it anyway, because that's where we're fucking headed. This guy, Asmongold, has a piss jar. He has a jar of piss. The most fundamental thing that makes us human, according to so many fucking anthropologists, is our ability to know where to separate how we eat and how we shit. It's so primitive and animalistic how basic even cats understand it. American lumpenization is becoming so fucking acute and so fucking extreme. You have unshowered men with a piss jar next to their computer where they eat Wendy's because they don't know how to distinguish basic habits, basic rhythms, basic routines, basic discipline, basic structure. All of it's gone. They're just purely dopamine, playing video games, scoring the points, jacking off, watching porn, pissing and shitting in your gamer chair where it's comfy and you have it so it's comfortable. You're not showering, you're not grooming yourself. You're just purely reacting to the most immediate hedonistic inputs and sensibilities and feelings. It's like, that's the hell that is lumpenization. These people aren't starving. They're just self-destructive nihilists who have been detached from reality. Imagine if everyone in America is Asmongold, right? All these DSA people, they're going to become Asmongolds. And when they do, what are the chances? 1 in 10 of them is going to wake up one day and be like, my life is retarded and I hate it. I just want to go kill people in real life. That's how it works. I mean, look, I saw the TikTok on X of the mass shooter. And it was some kid. He was wearing one of those skull masks. And there was an anime girl next to him. I shit you not. And it haunts me to this day. It was some anime song that was playing. And it was like, me, no. And he was just cutting. He was like simulating cutting his wrists and stabbing himself. And you just look at the deadness of this thing they were doing, and you look at the comments, and all the people on there were like, I don't know, they were like all this weird Gen A shit you didn't even understand. And that's lumpenization for you. That's like a fundamentally discombobulated human. And they're not doing, a lot of people have this idea that these terrorists, that they're doing it because they're angry at the world, because they were mistreated. No, they're doing it because they're nihilists. And they're nihilists because their material conditions of life have desensitized them to reality itself. And they just don't care. They just do it because they don't care. It's like a video game for them. Infrared has always been about reality. Come back to reality. Stop getting lulled into this insanity. Come back to reality. Embrace reality. Find the vision. Embrace reality. The Nietzschean last man is not a human animal. I hate to say. The Nietzschean last man is a bored, hairy, naked, scary chimpanzee who will scratch their ass in one moment and then take out a knife and stab 20 people in another moment just because they felt like it. Because they're just looking for their partial drives. They're looking for small kicks. That's what they're really after. Some kicks. The Nietzschean last man, it's not some passive consumer who's just sitting and eating grapes or something to satiate animal instincts. Human beings are not animals. That's what Alexander Kojev did not understand. Human beings are not animals. We create the things that compel us to act randomly. We can have concentration, we can have vision, we can have focus that makes that activity meaningful. But if we don't have meaningful activity, we're going to be given to this multiplicity of partial drives, random spontaneous acts, ticks. You take out a knife, you just stab someone. You take out a gun, you shoot your dick off. You fucking put a fucking firecracker up your ass and you go fly into the fucking sky 50 feet up. Why? Just cause. Like, that's what it means to be human in a way, though, without guidance. A human left to themselves is not going to become an orangutan or a chill gorilla in the zoo who's just scratching their ass and eating leaves. Left to their own devices, a human being is an animal which continuously invents causes, which continuously invents activities from the void. Now, history is the process out of which we escape this void. We acquire a sense of consistency and rhythm and structure in our activity that is meaningful and purposeful and aligned with the cosmos in which we are a part. But provided we have the liquidation of history, provided we have the liquidation of wisdom, we regress and devolve into something much more terrifying than an animal. A thing that just does things without any guidance. Imagine a scary Chris Chan being like, I just thought in my head the idea that I'm going to tie someone up and behead them with a shovel. And they just do it without even thinking about the consequences, without thinking about what it means, without thinking about why they would want to do something. Just the thought of doing that becomes this compelling thing you just want to do because you can. It's like when you're playing Gary's Mod, that's what you're doing. You open Gary's Mod, you get a ragdoll, you get an NPC, take out a shotgun, you blow their head off. You're just fucking around. That's the last man. That's the Nietzschean last man. At a certain point, when the barriers that separate the reality you find meaningful and know is meaningful and purposeful separates from the reality of play, you're starting to treat real life as Gary's Mod. It's not a slave to desire. Desire is concentrated. What did Jacques Lacan say? Jacques Lacan said, never, ever betray your desire. Never compromise and give way with respect to your desire. Why? Because Lacan understood if you pursue your desire consistently, eventually you'll be enlightened. Eventually you're going to realize that behind the desire is a kind of pure structure of drive. You'll break through the fantasy and realize that behind it is a symptom, is a sign, a signifier, and it will allow you to restore the meaningfulness in your life. But this is not desire. This is unmediated, immediate impulse. Imaginative, driven impulse that lacks any connection or relationship between the input and the output, the causes and the consequences. You just devolve into this continuously liquidating animal machine that just, worse than an animal, a monster. I've seen it. I see it growing in our society. You know, these people who are named Hitler, Rapist, Groiper 88 on X, I'll tell you the scary thing. These people are not angry. They don't have rage in their heart. You want to know somebody who's angry? I'm angry. Those people are not angry. They have a blank stare. They're just doing it because they can. They want to see what happens. They're just doing it because they can. They're just doing it because they can. They're not thinking about what it means at all. They're thinking about something they thought of in their head, and they're just doing it. Have you ever noticed serial killers are not profound people? Everyone always expects serial killers to have some profound backstory or motivation. 99% of them don't. They just did it because they just felt like it. They're just like, well, it's like they were just dicking around or something. They're not like thinking about the meaningfulness of their actions. They're just doing it because because purpose and meaning doesn't weigh upon them. They feel no weight of purpose. And so they're light. They have no weight of purpose. And so they're light on their feet, so to speak. And if they reach out and stab someone with a knife, it's nothing to them. It's just something I did. Only when you carry a burden of purpose will you think twice about your actions and the meaning behind your actions. But if you have no weight of purpose, you'll just do stuff because you can. Ted Kaczynski wasn't a serial killer, though. I mean, he was a profoundly misguided person, but he wasn't a serial killer. He wasn't just murdering children and shit and ripping them apart. The only way to restore the weight of purpose, labor. The only way to restore the weight of purpose, revolution and labor. Participation in a historical cause is the thing that gives purpose to a human being, that defines the matrices of their life and the choices that they make, that gives every single thing that they do some kind of quality of meaningfulness. If you understand that you're part of a story bigger than yourself, and you live in a cosmos, an order, bigger and older than yourself, you think about the meaningfulness behind every act. And when you commit acts without thinking, you reflect upon them. Third Observer with the 10. Appreciate you, bro. Third Observer, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. I want you guys to understand something. Infrared is not going anywhere. We're not tapering off. We're not going into that good night. We're just getting fucking started. Place your faith and your trust in me. If you see it, if you don't see it, I don't want it. But if you see it, it's time we get this fucking ball rolling. If you see it, if you're seeing what I'm seeing, if you understand what I'm telling you, now is the time. You may think to yourself, why hasn't it happened yet? Why are we not giant and viral now? I don't have an excuse for you. All I have to tell you is now is the time. Stagnation cannot continue. I am no longer going to pretend to be comfortable with this arrangement where we just keep ACP and infrared totally separate. We pretend they're not related in any kind of way. And I stream, and then I'm also the chairman. No, if I'm going to lead this party, I'm going to lead this party. I'm going to lead this party like the captain of a ship. Or else I'm not going to lead it at all. The only way I can captain this ship is if when I look in the sky, I can see the North Star. Infrared is that North Star. That's the vision that lets me think 2036. Not now, not next month, not next week. 2030 fucking 6. Will Infrared Collective and Show be officially part of the party? Well, let's just say we have a proposal we're working on to iron out the exact relation between Infrared and the party, along with other affiliated influencer media outlets that you will see before. You'll have plenty of time to think about and give your input on. And I want this to be passed during the National Congress. I'm giving you guys plenty of time to give you an understanding of what direction I think everything needs to go in, because the National Congress is this year. What if it isn't? All I can do is share with you my understanding. All I can do is share with you how I think we need to go forward. That's all I can do. I can share with you what I understand to be necessary. I can't force you to agree with me. I can share with you. I can't force you to agree with me. I can share with you the vision. I never could force the infrared vision on anybody. Ever. And never have. I forced someone to write a 6-page essay on the harms of video games. That's just science. That wasn't forcing anything. What if DSA responds by finally breaking from the Democrats? Good question. They would have to fully convert their apparatus into a fighting force of the proletariat. And at that point, there would be no disagreements between DSA and ACP. The problem is that would require a proletarian cultural revolution. That would require abandoning the self-serving material incentives of the professional petty bourgeoisie. But ask yourself a simple question. What is the likelihood that if you remove the material incentives that are behind people becoming DSA activists, that they're going to remain the DSA at all? I'm already moving in a way where I think we need to absorb a huge part of the DSA in the future. But do you really think the DSA structure and leadership has what it takes to convert into a selfless fighting force of the proletariat? No longer a fighting force of the professional petty bourgeoisie? Can they do it? Can they clap without jazz hands? Can they remove political correctness? Can they talk to people who don't agree about transgenderism? Can they talk to people who don't want the transgender sports thing or have otherwise bigoted views? Can they just talk to people who have a broad spectrum of bigotries and prejudices, which all Americans do? Can they even? No, they can't do that. Can they go to a blue-collar work site and talk to people? No. Sorry, they can't. 10% of the DSA are blue-collar workers. Remember that. When is the right time for conquest? Now. Now. Do it early so that when the real fucking time comes, it'll pass us by like it always had already happened. Because if we wait, it's never going to fucking happen.